everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of the Spiritual Inspired podcast. I am your host, Claudiu Murgan. For previous episodes, please visit ourhours.network, spiritualinspired.ca, and our YouTube channel. My guest today is Benjamin Shure. Benjamin, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me, Claudiu. Yeah, very happy to be here. I'm Benjamin Zachary Shure, and in this lifetime, I chose to have autism so that I'm able to connect to the different fields of frequencies that a lot of beings haven't really noticed. Um, I, lo- I asked for this way so I could have experienced certain challenges through this incarnation, including having a single young parent. He also had some experiences of lack of finances and things like this. The idea behind this incarnation is for me to show others that it is possible to shine, no matter how many limitations we've chosen to come into this physical incarnation with. So in this life, I was born in England, in Brighton, um, with two younger siblings. It was an interesting incarnation because my mother didn't recognize the autism, so there was some lots of sensations of misunderstanding around the family dynamics and things like this. Also, my mother was very young, only 18 when I was brought into the physical incarnation. So that was quite a journey for her as well, and still is. Um, I really enjoy traveling. I've traveled around the world a lot. So before I became consciously aware of my abilities, I was very spontaneous, but what was happening was that my higher soul was guiding me all this time, along with my spiritual team, going into different spaces. I've been around Latin America, all over Central America, quite a lot of the Caribbean, and I've been into these spaces at interesting times when I was there. Even though I wasn't consciously aware, I was actually activating certain grids, helping the ley lines, releasing some of the old guardians of these spaces. You see, like in Latin America, I've always been drawn to Latin America because they're still one of the cultures around that are very, very connected to Mother Earth in a sacred way. This is really, really special because I've always known there was more to life here on Earth. I wasn't particularly satisfied with what I was doing a lot. I used to teach English as a second language. Um, I was in Spain. I was drawn to Spain because in one of my previous masculine human incarnations, I was actually born in Spain, in a place near Granada, and I've always wanted to go to Granada. And in this life, I was dedicated to helping others. But perhaps I signed contracts, if you will, in the records, where I would only work for the church. I was helping others, but I was tied to the church. So in this incarnation, I've had some experiences where I haven't experienced maybe having a partner or something like this, because in that previous incarnation, I was married to the church, so I wasn't allowed. But since I went through my records quite a few years ago, I was able to release these attachments, these blockages, and rather than experiencing misdirection or what I used to call rejection, there has been more flow and more allowances and acceptances of different experiences, not only tied to relationships, but just with other things that perhaps weren't allowed if you were tied to the church. Um, So having autism has been an interesting experience because I've always been able to feel energy as a physical, tangible aspect. And in my younger years, I didn't really communicate so much with a lot of people, especially in high school, secondary school. And I just assumed that this was all normal. So I used to make forms with the energy. And I just loved feeling it and bringing it around my body. And what I was doing, because I received bullying, sometimes physical bullying, I was healing aspects of my body where I received the physical aspects of bullying. Just subconsciously, it was coming to me. I didn't realize at the time because having autism is quite an interesting aspect because I'm still learning to come into my physical form. Right now, I'm close to my body. So when one has autism, the journey is about coming down into the physical and being comfortable in this rather constricted form. Because we as soul beings, we are pure infinite beings of love and light. So I know my favorite incarnation is as a plasma being or as a field of consciousness. It's ever so expansive and can move everywhere freely without limitation. But bringing all of this energy into this physical form is what I chose. But it resulted in certain challenges. Lack of spatial awareness, for one. It's almost like coming down into Earth, choosing to bring in all this energy. And when one has all of this energy in a physical form, normally this person, this being, would have something known as autism, which basically means we're more connected to the external fields of consciousness more freely. Everything is flowing, streaming now. Right now, I am streaming my higher consciousness in a way that can be understood in the human field about this experience. And it is rather interesting because before the physical, I wasn't aware of how complicated I would feel in the physical being with all of this energy to have access to. But it's made the experience challenging, meaning I haven't really understood or connected to many humans here. Because we're in different radio stations, you could say, different frequencies. I still don't quite understand how the general population work and what they are attached to. A lot of it for me is can be seen to be a bit irrelevant, like a lot of fluff around different things. I like to see the origin of where something happened. For example, I practice lots of different types of energy modalities. I create my own as well. I bring them in from other incarnations, etc. So when I work, rather than seeing where something originated from in this incarnation, I like to see where it originated from the soul. So what incarnation, what part of creation did that come in and why? And work from that direction. Rather than working directly with the symptoms, you go to the beginning. So I see a lot of humans working with symptoms, but are perhaps stuck in a field of consciousness because they chose to perhaps be fully embodied in the physical incarnation, another way to be human, and then to learn to reconnect to the all-knowing ability. It just seems that I've chosen a different path so that I can be a shining light for others. Meaning, when people say, oh, you have autism, dyspraxia, dyslexia, ADHD, and all of these different labels, and yet you're doing all these wonderful, magical things. Oh, and you didn't have a father figure either. It's like, wow. So this is why I've chosen this incarnation, so I can show that it is possible to do things no matter what you've chosen to come.
Benjamin, you have, as you mentioned, a lot of approaches to energy healing, and one of them is quantum journeying. How do you approach this process when you work with clients?
Okay. So quantum journeying is one of my favorite modalities that I was gifted or brought in. It's similar to a past life regression, but knowing that we are infinite souls and there is actually no such thing as time, only in this incarnation. Some other incarnations, there is linear time and circular time. There are other types of times as well. But in the quantum journeying, we can go into a future timeline, a multidimensional timeline, or a past timeline. We can go through all of them in one session. We work with a particular intention. For example, if there has been some financial difficulty, again, we would go to the root. And the root can have different, well, an origin can have different roots. So some of the roots can be started in a particular incarnation 1,000 years from now. So we would go there in whatever form, and then we'll connect in with our higher consciousness, God source creator, to go somewhere else. And that can be in the past, because here on earth we see things in linear, so we can go back there. So we go through different spaces and we can acknowledge we get different perspectives. And then we will bring in some energy healing into these spaces. So rather than just viewing, we can connect in with our superconscious, go into our Akashic and Galactic records, and deactivate those contracts. We mark them as complete, and then we allow ourselves to integrate. Then after the session, I will give some instructions directly from your higher consciousness, because everything that comes through me is from your soul. It's not me who's controlling anything. I'm, in a sense, like a bridge and bringing in the language and the information in a way that you're able to understand and to compute and integrate. And this is basically the journey of a quantum journey.
Beautiful. And also, soul discovery and soul recovery, there are concepts that not too many understand. How do you work with this type of approach?
So quantum soul discovery. This, in a sense, is a galactic reading, we could say. So when I go into session, before the session, I normally ask the client, the person, for them to write any questions at all about what they like to know, normally around 7 to 8. So it can be while they've experienced certain things on repeat. Many of us have cycles and we're unaware of some cycles, or sometimes we are aware. Sometimes they ask, why have I had this vision? Why have I had this dream? What's happening? So basically, I can receive the answers from your higher consciousness and bring it to you. And sometimes they like to bring in activations from other incarnations that you had. So one of the questions, what abilities do you have, for example? And I can bring in the information of the abilities you're allowed to access in this incarnation. Because we're infinite beings, we can have access to everything, but as a soul, we've chosen to have access to a few areas, because here in the human realm, we're learning to let go and to trust in love, basically. And then soul recovery is literally soul recovery, recovering aspects of the soul. We've had many, many incarnations, so many incarnations. And when we've chosen to experience a form of trauma, or we've experienced some unauthorized trauma, it happens. When we left the physical incarnation, we left that particular field, what we as a soul do because we still carry some of that consciousness we had from the previous incarnation still influencing us, we actually slice it off. And then this is how we become fragmented. So in these sessions, we will go back to the time where we sliced a part of our consciousness off and we can recall it. So many of us have fragments of other souls. So, for example, if you might have received a reading or a past life regression and it didn't quite align, this is because the facilitator was linking into a fragment that's not actually yours. This fragment was lighting up to try and get attention to say, hey, I'm not in the right soul right now. But the facilitator or reader wasn't aware of this, just following the journey. So this happens sometimes. So in the sessions, we go back, we send all elements back to rightful owner in a way that can be blessed and sanctified. And then our higher consciousness will reintegrate it.
So for those who feel the urge to start on their spiritual path, all these steps you mentioned, especially soul recovery, I assume that there are essential steps to be taken before they can fully understand who they are and connect to their higher self. Am I correct?
Oh, yes, definitely. So I would say first steps would be, well, getting to know oneself. So going into breathing, meditation. So a very nice breath is box breathing, where you can breathe in for 4, 5, 6, or 7, any number, and you hold your breath for the same count. Then you exhale for the same count and hold again. You repeat this 8 to 12 times with the intention of centering and balancing. You will notice more about yourself. Yeah.
What is the remedy of light session you are doing for your clients?
Well, this is something very special and sacred. So it is, in a sense, it's a recording of a light language, a star language that you're familiar with, coming from your soul. So it's something that your soul, your higher aspect, believes is of high priority for you in this point of your life. So I would bring in a recording, a channeling, around 6 to 7 minutes for you to listen to as many times as you feel. And sometimes I'll be guided to bring in a symbol as well, which you will have instructions to integrate the symbol. You can print it out and stick it on the wall, put it onto your pillow, and you can receive the energy that way as well.
And this is very interesting, and I hope people will understand that it's very important, again, a component of who they are. And when we talk about psychic surgeries, people just roll their eyes and they don't understand the concept that something like this can exist, and this similar thing like the physical surgery some of us will do, brain surgery or appendicitis or something like that. So how do you perform your psychic surgeries?
Yeah. So psychic surgery is normally the end of the process, because first we would go into the original event of where this illness, disease started from normally another incarnation, and start working from there. And we also go through the records and see if it can be cleared, if it is allowed to be cleared. And then when we go into it, still, if most of it's cleared, but there's still some bits, we'll go into a psychic surgery. So basically, psychic surgery works with the etheric layer, the layer just before the physical. So once we heal the energy forms, how consciousness works, because there's so many different layers. Right now we could say we're in our last form, which is our physical. So normally energy healing was actually performed as a preventative, because we can feel when there's an energy coming in that's not our own. This is why we meditate, so we can notice things and then we can clear things before they are. So in the psychic surgery, we work with the etheric and the other layers, but the layer just before the physical. And once we've cleansed these other layers, the physical body, because our physical bodies actually heal themselves. What we're doing through many medicine types and things is we're providing the correct pools and energy for the bodies to recover themselves. So when we give them the correct energy and correct space, it works. So with a psychic surgery, it is non-invasive. It's a highly charged energy, extremely charged energy. Recommended after receiving is to be bedbound for at least 4 to 5 days, even though you might not feel any pain. But if you started moving, doing exercise, you will start to feel pain because we have operated on the energy structure of the organ. So sometimes you go into the lattice, and the lattice is a place where the energy imprints are stored for the organs, for example. So if there's an organ that's beyond repair, we would simply bring in the new imprint for the new one. And we have to give that time to be reintegrated. So the 4 to 5 days bed rest helps a lot. And then there will be meditations and things to follow that onward.
And for those who follow this process and they listen to you to stay bedbound and do the meditation, looking at your success rate, can you say that it was 100% for those, again, who follow the rules?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I've done it for myself as well a couple of times.
And who helps you during these psychic surgeries?
So again, it's connecting with God source creator, our higher source consciousness. We all have a God presence, source presence, and it's bringing in these energies. So I used to practice a method many years ago where I allowed an energy to come into my field and guide my hands and arms to do the movements. I've now transformed from that. I've gone into a more omniscient way of God source creator coming in. I was shown this technique by a shaman, you could say, in Nicaragua. And then I've just, as I've grown, I've adapted to a more aligned way, we could say. Yeah.
Nice. And we are told, during our lifetime that we came from the stars. Is it important for us to understand who is our home star families? Is Andromeda or Pleiades or Arcturians, or is just a nice to have?
Most of the time, it's nice to have, depending though. For example, for some people, it can be important depending what we've chosen. Like in my case, I watched a series called Atypical about people. This person has autism, and it was the first time that I felt I wasn't alone in the physical form. I know I'm not alone. But once I saw that, I was able to shift dramatically. So when you know that you may not be alone and you're connected to an energy field, it can be highly beneficial. So I do a session of reconnection to Homestar, and I believe at the moment I'm the only being that brings this energy in. And we connect to your own Homestar. There are hundreds of thousands of galaxies and systems that we can connect to. So many of the planetary systems are unnamed, but we connect to the one that you're longing for as a soul. And then once you connect to this, feelings of disconnect, sometimes suicidal feelings, they will disappear because we are reconnected to our energy. Because we are more than our body. Our body is our vessel. And when we reconnect to our home star, we can get these downloads and we can accept them more because it's a certain frequency that only you will recognize. And it will just bring so much more ease And we can have more than one home star, depending what type of soul we are. If we're a soul that chose expansion, we have life threads. This basically means one soul has many different threads, and each thread has a different incarnation in the same timeline. So right now I have hundreds of thousands of life experiences in this very same time. I'm some on Earth, some in this galaxy, some in other universes, some in the Akashic fields, some in the galactic fields, and so on. This is how I'm able to do what I do, because I'm literally everywhere at the same time, in the same timeline.
Beautiful. If someone like parents with autistic children will approach you, or they are listening to this discussion, what will be an advice for them so you can put their mind at ease and they will learn how to behave with their child?